Good morning, Cornwall fans. Welcome back to Ka-Pow Comics. Sorry, I'm a little bit later than this was going on, but looking at the nobody's waiting, so it's fine. But I had a customer in, and it's fine. So yeah, I'm just going to talk about Rambi and Anand Arke's Radio Apocalypse, and probably a lot of this is going to be talking about Rambi and Anand Arke as well. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Ramvi is quite difficult to mispronounce. Let's see if I can bring up Anand Arke. I assume Anand is easy to pronounce as well. So anyway. This is an odd one for me because it's literally just one issue. Radio Apocalypse is out, and the second issue isn't out until February or something like that. So I'm kind of basing this entire it deserving to be on my best of the year list on one issue. And I've already reviewed that one issue. There's a link in the description. You can check it out. And I'm hoping I'm going to be able to say enough different things to make it worthwhile doing a separate video. But like I say, we're going to start by talking about the creators. Because two of them work together on Blue and Green, which I kind of already broke my came out this year rule once by putting in Tressa yesterday, and Blue and Green did come out 2020 again, kind of like near the end of 2020, but still it came out that year, and I didn't read it until this year, partly down to just me not realizing it was Ram V. Totally failed to pick up on any of the marketing that Image Comics put out. Thoroughly regretted it. Read it, loved it, loved it, loved it. Actually did a special review of Blue and Green on a Saturday where I don't usually do them, just to make sure everyone knew how cool this thing was and everyone should go and read it. And although I'd picked up on a few bits and pieces that he'd done, it was that one that really kind of cemented in me that I need to pay attention to what he does. And throw in the fact that it's Anand Arke doing the artwork as well. Radio Apocalypse is on my pull list before there was even I think 4 on pull lists. I wanted it based on nothing but word of mouth and a couple of Twitter posts. I desperately wanted to read it, but it just being one issue, that does run the risk of it being massively disappointing and issue 2 being a massive letdown. I don't think that's going to happen. I have once in the past put something on here as a best of the year, in fact literally number 1 with I think only 1.5 issues, because there was an issue 1 and then a spin-off or something like that, which was Simon Spurrier's Hellblazer, which was and still is the best Hellblazer I've read in the past decade. So I do not regret putting that on, and I'm really, really hoping that this year I do not regret putting Radio Apocalypse on. And if I'm completely honest, I think every best of the year list should have something from Ram V on it. It's up till number 6, I think, before I've even got something from them down, but they deserve to be high on this list. They absolutely do. He is an absolutely poetic genius of a writer. Some of his stuff, when I've done reviews of it, I've actually read directly from the page because of how lyrical it sounds. Blue and Green is one of the best examples of it. But it's not just that. There is even in the Savage Shores and maybe Swamp Thing, something almost made onto this list. It is a really solid comic book, and I recommend everyone pick it up. But Swamp Thing is kind of like a hard one to let stand on its own. Pretty much everyone who's written it for the past 20, 30 years has tried to recapture what made Alan Moore's run so successful, with varying degrees of success. And Ram V's start didn't light my world on fire. This one did. Radio Apocalypse absolutely did. And it did it for a start by just kicking off with some absolutely fantastic world building. And I mean that in the most vague of sense, because there's a lot we don't know about this world. If you read some of the promo material for it, you get a bit of sense of why there was an apocalypse and why there are some people surviving. But there's a lot that still is not explained. But the stuff that matters to the story at heart, which is a very people-centric story, it is how these people are surviving and what they do to get through the day and how they help each other out, which sometimes mean making some terrible decisions and sometimes having to rely on emotion, sometimes having to rely on logic, and how these two things are going to battle each other. I recently watched The Martian again, by the way, an absolutely brilliant movie, which doesn't have a villain, but Hollywood sensibilities mean you have to have some kind of antagonist. So they have the head of NASA, and all he does is make difficult decisions, and sometimes he gets them wrong, but he makes them for very good reasons. I feel like, although this comic book definitely has some villainous activity and some creatures who are considered evil, I think probably the biggest issue they're going to be facing is making those hard choices in a very, very hard world. And I can't wait to see how that plays out. I think Ram V is going to do a really good job with it. She writes brilliant human characters, even in exceptional situations. And this one feels quite down to earth compared to the stuff he's done. It feels a bit more day-to-day struggle, a bit more human relationshipy than some of his other stuff, but I think that's going to work absolutely brilliantly. And one of the reasons why is there's a moment of sacrifice in this issue, which culminates in an explosion. And unlike pretty much every other comic book I've ever read, which would do something like this, the explosion isn't a thing that you see. It isn't even a thing that you hear. And when I say hear, I know, yes, it's comic book, you don't hear anything, but there is no onomatopoeia, there is no sound effect, there is nothing at all like that. What you get is, I think, a page and a half, maybe 2 pages of reaction to something happening, which, as a reader with a viewpoint on what's been happening from multiple storylines, you know has been an explosion. But then it just cuts to people turning and being aghast, and there's no boom, there's no boom, there's no flash of light, there's no billowing smoke. It is literally just a human response to a problem, and it comes across so brilliantly because it's not done in the traditional way, but also proves you don't need to do things in the traditional way. You can play with form, which is one of my favorite things in the world, especially with regard to comic books, and something that Anand Dake has proven he's very, very good at when it comes to writing, doing the artwork for Blue and Green. That's a story which apparently was done almost improvisationally, of them coming up with ideas and playing with it and seeing how the art's put the story and if that art changed the story and vice versa. And all that meant it turned into one of the best comic books I've ever read. And seeing these two people, these two amazing creators working together again, is enough that I was obviously going to pick it up. But that one moment, that moment of the explosion, and the things happen before and things happen after it, which are human and deep and disturbing and calming at times, all culminated in this fantastic example of what you can do with comic books. And the comic book itself starts with a DJ, or at least I'm trying to remember exactly. There might be something before, but as somebody who's a big fan of True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys, that as a motif is something I really appreciate. I love the idea of a voice in the wasteland. And not an evil voice, not somebody like, barking out instructions or telling you go to a safe space or letting you know that we've lost another settlement, something like that, but somebody who speaks with warmth and humanity and hope in the middle of the worst you can possibly imagine, that there is somebody who's gained access to a way of communication and is using it for good. And honestly, if that isn't a good enough reason for you to pick up this comic book, I don't know what else will do. But suffice to say, it is also one of the best written, best run comic books I've been reading for a while. I can't wait for issue 2. That's it from me today, though. I'm going to come back on Monday with another one. Make sure you hit like and subscribe and hit the bell and everything so you don't miss out on the rest of them. But until I see you again, or until you see me again, look after each other, everyone. Stay safe. Bye.